have two foster daughters. I don't think I have a particular gift for parenting. I do all right. I try. Everybody makes you so nervous, though, you know? Everyone's got an opinion, and they insist on telling it to you. I mean, when my one baby was really baby, people would say to me, oh, you can't let her sleep on her stomach because Sid's babies were often babies that slept on their stomachs. And the pediatrician said to me, well, you can't let her sleep on her back because she could spit up and choke and drown. Well, you guys, those are pretty much the two major sides right there. I slept with like an egg timer and a spatula by my bed. Every 20 minutes, I go in and flip the baby. She cried constantly, that baby did too. My second foster child just cried constantly. And you know, I never wished that she had language at that point, but I sure did wish she had memory so that I could say to her someday, remember the time we were going to that restaurant? You screamed the entire time? What the hell was the matter with you? And she could say, well, the tag on my shirt was rubbing. I find, this goes without saying, I guess, but I find the discipline thing like so hard, you know. When you think about it, most of the discipline techniques that were used on us are now illegal. I was so frustrated by my 4.5-year-old the other day that I said to her, like, I didn't know what to do anymore. And I told her that. I said, you know, I don't know what to do with you. I said, how about this? For a minute, you be me, and I'll be you. And she went like this, no! I thought, you know, I knew my life sucked. But that it was so obvious that a 4.5-year-old was terrified to be me for even a minute. My God, my life sucks. And I've been to a shrink. It doesn't help. I was having a really hard time at one point getting my infant to sleep through the night. At the worst part of it, she was awake 15 times a night. And at the same time, I've been seeing shrinks for 10 years running, and I just switched to a new one. And the second time I went to see her, I was talking to her, and she fell asleep while I was talking to her. Just dozed off. I saw her eyelids start to go, and her head kind of waggle sideways ever so slightly. And I had no idea what to say, which is part of the reason I'm in therapy. It was like she wasn't any further than that away from me. Finally, I tucked a blanket up under her chin, left $90 and got out of there. But then I realized, you know, I have a kid who wouldn't sleep through the night. If only I would just tell her my problems. That's what I started doing. I talked to her at night. I go, you know, I don't have sex. I'm not intimate with people. I don't have friends. She'd be out like a light. I think the only reason I am a foster parent and every now and then I get another infant is because of the equipment you get to get. You go to those baby stores where they have all this stuff, like the cribs each has like a different quilt and bumpers, and they each one have a different mobile hanging over top of it. And by the way, the mobiles now face the baby. The bears look down. Some engineer finally had the good sense to lay in the crib and look up and see what kids were seeing. We had rotating bear butts over our heads. God knows what that created in terms of, you know, people talk about the family falling apart and it causing, you know, sort of, you know, neuroses in us as adults. But no, it was rotating bear butts. I was in a bookstore down the street from my house one day with my foster daughter, who was at the time 7 months old, and I wanted to buy her some cardboard books because she was spazzing out and paper cutting herself on regular books. And we go to the bookstore. It's this big, huge store, and they were having a marathon reading of banned books. Obviously not books banned there in the store. But what people would do is there was a podium and a microphone, and people would come up with a book, and they would say what book they were reading, and they would read the offensive passage from the book. And no matter where you were in the store, you could hear this. So we go back to the children's book section, and, you know, it's sort of just in my ears, you know, kind of constantly. And now as I got like a big, huge stack of books, more than I meant to get, and I was kind of lumbering back, trying not to spill them, with the baby under this arm and a big, huge diaper bag on one shoulder. And as I get back towards the register, I hear this over the microphone, this guy say that he's now reading from Lady Chatterley's Lover. Well, most of the books, I honestly couldn't figure out what the offensive passage is if I wanted to. And I certainly probably would not be offended by it. However, this book, I can recognize what the offensive passage is. I'm not offended by it, but I certainly can put my finger on what perhaps bothers other people. There's a very graphic description of sex in the book. And so as I near the counter to ask the lady to look up, by the way, and find out if they had a book for me, I suddenly hear from this speakers just pounding through the side of my head, the penis and the thrusting and the breasts and the heaving and the sweating and this very, I was like totally embarrassed for just a brief moment because I just like came upon the woman right at that moment. And it was too late to stop myself from blurting out, do you have the pokey puppy? And then I felt kind of ashamed of myself for even being embarrassed for a moment. I thought, how silly. And then I realized, well, part of the problem is, you know, there were those words, and then there was these imageries that they had. Like it would say, you know, it was like the pounding of the waves on the shore. It was like the coming up of the sun. It was like the dawning of man. And, you know, none of it was ringing a bell. I am no expert on sex for sure, but this was not sounding vaguely familiar to me. I think in terms of imagery, one time when the sex was not totally horrible when I had sex, I closed my eyes and I pictured for a brief moment a freshly stirred glass of Tang. That is the closest I have ever come. You know, but I mean when you really got it going and like the bubbles come in the middle and you let the spoon go in its circles a couple more times.